Howdy folks, my name is ReadyOpco, and welcome back to part number 12 of Let's Play The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. In the very last part, we took on dungeon number 3, the Skull Woods, and retrieved a special item, the Fire Rod, from it. And if you can't tell by the theme of this dungeon, something fire-based might be a little bit useful for what we're going to be encountering in here. And I believe that this plaque here, Dawson, the magic flames will protect you inside this icy dungeon. And indeed, we have the magic power of the Fire Rod. It's going to be helpful in this dungeon in a number of places, but primarily, I don't think it's actually going to get another use outside of defeating those enemies until we are almost finished with things, which is super exciting. They basically make you use it right at the entrance of the dungeon to make sure that you have it, and then it is the entire dungeon without having to use it again, basically. Might see it again 1 or 2 times, but we'll be holding on to it as much as possible, especially because we are going to be needing to hold on to approximately half of our available magic meter that we've got there. So I'm going to be doing my best to take down as many threats as I can with just... oh, come on. I got hit by the frame lag there. These penguin enemies are very dangerous, and I'm going to be doing my best to take them down with the sword, but considering they are so dangerous, I might end up resorting to one of the medallions that we have collected, as they are indeed a screen clear. It's a very, very helpful tool, especially when you're running on ice physics. The ice physics in this game are brutal and unrelenting. They make you so slippery. It actually makes it hard to get into doorways, even. It is a really frustrating thing. So this room, because it has an anti-fairy in it, I'm for sure going to pop the Bombos Medallion in here. Not going to take any chances with these penguin guys, considering they deal 2 hearts of damage each, and I've still got a full stock of fairies, so I think I'm doing pretty good. So this actual dungeon, I believe this is just the Ice Palace. I'm pretty sure that that is just the name of this dungeon. It doesn't have a super special fancy name or anything. Oh, I probably should have collected those magic bottles, but I'm not too worried about it. We'll be getting plenty of chances to collect more. This dungeon is, I think, the point in this game where things really have ramped up. The previous 4 dungeons, dungeon number 4 kind of starts things with its very confusing beginning area. It is a little confusing to actually get through there, but as soon as you step into dungeon 5, you are understanding that the game is like testing you at this point. No easy solutions. We're going to be coming across a puzzle in this dungeon later that actually made me... I ended up, the first time that I played this game, I could not figure out how to solve the puzzle within the dungeon, so I dipped right on out of things and decided to go to dungeon number 6, retrieve its item, do all of dungeon number 6, and then do this one, which, as a kid, sequence breaking like that was, like, unheard of to me. I couldn't even, like, stomach the thought of not going through a game in the intended fashion. It was really weird, so having to go and do that just to beat this dungeon was kind of frustrating, but the item there actually lets you... oh, that's unfortunate. I was trying to keep full hearts as long as possible. The sword beams are really actually helpful here, but I think that is annoying. Hey, I got my heart back. Thank you. But this is definitely the point where the game is, like, testing you. This dungeon is very confusing, and if you've noticed, we actually haven't come across the dungeon map yet. It gives you the compass first to show you that the boss is all the way at the bottom of the dungeon, and you can see that this place is huge. It has 8 floors to it. So yeah, dungeon 5, no more joking around, no more messing around. I definitely recommend you have the ability to get the tempered sword, assuming that you just do the game normally. If you've done dungeon number 4 before number 5, you should have the Titan's Mitt already at this point. Tempered sword is basically necessary. These penguin guys take 2 hits from the tempered sword, so I can only imagine that they take probably 4 or 5 from the master sword, so definitely highly recommended. Do not come here without getting your requisite sword upgrade, for I fear that you will be sad. I thought that this room was a trap room the first time I came into it, but no, it actually turns out that this is the critical progression path. It just seems like such a trap, right? Like, you're not supposed to be going this way, and now you've fallen into a dangerous new area. It is really a mean trick. And again, I'm going to mention, still no dungeon map, still no actual way to look at the rooms that we haven't gone into yet without actually going into them, so If any dungeon is going to cause me to stumble around, it is this one, even though I did do my practice run right before this and made it all the way to the boss, but even with that said, this place is not a joke. I don't think I wanted to go this way. I think I wanted to go the upper path. See, this is what I mean. It is confusing to remember once you've gotten like halfway through the dungeon. You hit this big room that has multiple exits, and all of a sudden things turn very, very confusing. But I think we should be able to get through here with hopefully some relative ease. Hopefully I'll be able to actually do it in this video, and it doesn't end up taking like a two-parter or something because I just don't know where I'm going. These giant spike traps are really threatening to me for whatever reason. They just look so massive and imposing. It is really scary having to weave in between them like that. And I will mention again that it is extremely mean of the developers. They just put random cracks like this in the wall, and oh, now that I'm thinking about it, the ability to tap on walls with your sword like this was introduced in this game for that reason. You're supposed to be able to test any given crack on the wall to see if it is true or not. So I'm gonna grab this key, and the game wants us to head back around, but because I have the ability of the magic cape, oh, well, of course I'm gonna take damage on the spikes anyways before I get a chance to use the freaking thing, but that is going to be the first example of a good use of the magic cape. You can use it to avoid damage in situations like that. These guys, I thought these guys were actually Stalfos, as they were named in later Zelda games, but these guys are just skeleton knights. They get a kind of lame name, unfortunately, but they are an enemy that can only be defeated with the explosive power of bombs. As a matter of fact, now that I'm thinking about it, I totally passed up the plaque, the Sahasrara thing that would tell you that, so that is on me for skipping over that and not actually taking the time to read it. Give you guys another taste of my glorious old man voice. I'm glad that they actually put a good number of pots and stuff, or, you know, skulls in this dungeon. And there we go, we finally have the map. Finally are able to look at things and figure out exactly how this confusing place is set up. You can see it is quite labyrinthian indeed. All of the floors are fairly detailed and have a lot of rooms on them, so I can totally understand that if you are extremely confused going through this dungeon the first time. It is an extremely tricky place. But here we've got the big key, as I believe we've already passed by the, or no, I actually avoided that direction now that I'm thinking about it, and do I want it? Yeah, absolutely, I want to use the Bombos magic again. Going through this room normally is very, very frustrating. These penguin guys do 2 hearts of damage. I'm not sure if I had mentioned that before, but dealing 2 hearts of damage makes them incredibly, incredibly dangerous. Almost, like, I think they're the most dangerous enemy in this dungeon, actually. I think the skeleton knights probably also deal 2, so they are equally as dangerous. But otherwise, I think the jellyfish only hit you for 1, and then the anti-fairies don't even always take health, I think? They're very confusing, actually. I'm not 100% sure how the anti-fairies work, if I'm being perfectly honest. I don't know a lot about this game's mechanics. I would actually be interested, because I'm sure people dig into this game with how active the speedrunning community is for this game. I'm certain that there are people looking into it. And I had mentioned that before, but I didn't really expand on the thought. Like, speedrunning is super cool because it represents the most dedicated people, usually because they're willing to do things like that, like straight up look into the code of a game to be able to figure things out and really, like, I guess, get every single bit of a game that you can. I try to make an effort whenever I play a game. Like, for example, I think I have somewhere around like 600 or 700 hours in Fallout New Vegas combined, simply because I like have an obsession with I want to experience every single dialogue option, and occasionally those things will. Oh, thank you, Firebar, for having a whack hitbox. Oh, this room. In games like Fallout, I have an obsession with trying to get as much content as possible, and I find it admirable that some people are willing to go even further than that. Like, they're trying to look at the text files for dialogue. They're not trying to experience it all in game. They are perfectly content with reading everything, which is a crazy amount of dedication. I think it shows a huge amount of love for a game. And in some way, obsession, but you know, those could be considered one and the same. Says man who has not dated anyone in like 3 years. Though that is that is a personal choice, as much as I'm sure people would like to believe otherwise. That's a little hurtful. But no, I just am not even in the slightest. I got video games to play, man. Video games are more satisfying than any sort of personal contact with another human being, regardless of gender, quite frankly. I'm perfectly content to pick up some bombs from this chest. I'm glad that they give you those. I hadn't actually taken the time during my practice run to hit these guys with the fire rod, so I had no idea that that chest was going to be there. But of course, now that we've got the big key, able to fall down on this side of the room, open up the chest, and finally, thank goodness, I wish they gave you this in like the second dungeon in the Dark World, the blue mail. This armor reduces the damage that you take from enemies, so everything that has been dealing 2 hearts to us, I believe is now reduced to doing only a single heart of damage. So it makes those penguin guys a lot less dangerous. Not to say that they're not still dangerous. Same with these ice guys. 1 heart of damage is still nothing to sneeze at, but makes them a lot more manageable. Come on, I just want to hit you with the zappy zap of my fire, please and thank you. Gotta hit me a whole bunch. It's quite unnecessary. And if I'm remembering correctly, I think that it may actually... Oh, man, stupid skeleton knight. I think that it may actually be possible. This is one of the dungeons that I think it is possible to complete with only with a single key left over. I think there's one passageway that you technically don't have to go through. So if you choose to do that, that is an option that is available to you. I'm not going to be taking the time to do that. I don't think so, at least. I think I'm going to end up using all the keys on the route that I have through here. Then again, I'm not 100% sure, so we might end up ending this dungeon with an extra key, folks. Wouldn't that be so exciting? Keys is another Zelda enemy, although I learned that apparently the bats in this game are actually not keys. They are confirmed not keys. They are just bats, which I think is really funny, because like, keys have been called that since the very first Zelda, if I'm not mistaken. So it is mystifying to me that they just called them bats. They just went with bats. Or that may be Majora's Mask, actually, that I'm thinking of, but I know it's one of the Zelda games where Keese was already like an established name. People already knew it, and then they went and called some enemies like, this is a bat. It is just a bat. Ignore that we had a fanciful name for the enemy beforehand, like we do for most other enemies. Like, I don't think those jellyfish are called jellyfish. Then again, I think that actually might be the one enemy example, they might be called jellyfish. I do not 100% remember. I guess that's going to be something that I have to throw in one of those snazzy oof edits with the funny Mario 64 sound. I hope that some people get some level of enjoyment out of the little text pop-ups and the sound effect when I make a goof, because it is very frequently that I make a goof. And in that specific instance, I would genuinely be curious to know what the name of that enemy is, because Nintendo has a lovely habit of making very interesting names for their enemies. Ah! I got zapped by the jellyfish, the zappy zap guy. I promise to you I will know the actual name of those enemies in the next part. I will look it up, and I'll have the little edit thingy, and I will do all the work, and I'm not going to shirk. I noticed that there was one particular video where it was actually part 10, I'm pretty sure, where I was like, yeah, this is gonna be the thumbnail, and then I totally forgot about it. Like, I somehow glossed over that when I was doing the editing portion or something, so my apologies about that. Going to be trying to do a much better job about actually listening back to myself when I'm talking about all this crap. And indeed, I think there has to be another key somewhere in this dungeon, because there is still one door that I never unlocked, but we've got the dungeon item, and we've got the big key, so I don't see any reason to stay in here any longer than we need to. Let's go ahead and move on to the boss. It's very exciting. Gotta slap down some pegs first, though. Give it the old bop, bop. And then right down this hole, if you go ahead and check the map, as you can assume, is going to be the boss's lair. I'm going to throw on the fire rod really quickly, and I actually managed to make it here with all 3 of my fairies. During my practice run, I made it here with 0 fairies, and that's because I wasn't using the Bombos Medallion for the penguins. That is definitely my recommendation to clear out those rooms. Makes things really, really easy. So let's equip the fire rod, drop on in. This is the boss of dungeon number 5, Cold Stare. And he's cold, and he is definitely staring at us. That is quite spooky. So this is the reason why I told you that you need to make sure that you get to the end of this dungeon with at least half of your magic meter left, because you need to use the fire rod on him about that many times. I wasn't actually counting there, my apologies. Throw on the boomerang since we don't need the fire rod anymore. He's going to split into 3, and now we just go ahead and swing with our sword while avoiding the falling ice chunks. Overall, not that tough of a boss. He does still deal a whole bunch of damage even with the blue mail equipped, I believe. I think it is 2 hearts if you actually run into the boss, so be very careful not to actually run into the... Yeah, it is 2 hearts if you run into the actual pink blobs, so just try your best to avoid them, hit them with your sword. You can see that even with the tempered sword, these guys are still taking a fair number of hits each. I think it is 5 or 6 even with the tempered sword. Alright, it's a good thing we got those 3 fairies. Should be able to make it through this without too much issue. But even with the tempered sword, these guys still take a lot of hits, so you can see that even with all of the recommended upgrades, the sequence breaking, and everything that I've done up to this point, this still is quite a bit of a challenge. But we've taken all 3 parts of Cold Stare down, going to collect our heart container, and can we polish it this time? Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, you can wait for the crystal to fall, and then you can throw it and try to grab it on the rebound. I'm remembering the trick fully now. Alrighty, see if I can manage that, why don't we? Nope, I went too early. But we got a spinning boomerang for the probably, let me see here, the 6th time? I think I skipped out on 2 dungeons, maybe 3? 5th or 6th, either way we got a nice spinning boomerang, and that's always exciting.
Dawson, because of you, I can escape the clutches of the evil monsters. Thank you. They say the Hylia people controlled mysterious powers, as did the 7 wise men. But the blood of the Hylia has become thin over time. We who carry the blood of the 7 wise men do not possess strong power anymore either. Our powers will increase if we mix the courage of the knights with the wisdom of the wise men. Only a short time remains until the gate at the castle linking the worlds opens completely. If you defeat Ganon, this world will vanish, and the Triforce will wait for a new holder. I believe in you. Good luck. Do you understand? May the way of the hero lead to the Triforce.
Ah, I love the new snazzy look for Link with the blue mail. He looks so fantastic with the tempered sword. It's such a good color scheme. I wish that they would use different tunic color schemes for Link more often. So there we go. That is dungeon number 5 cleared and put away with. That was indeed a challenging time, but I'm glad that we've got everything done with and that we can walk out of there with a convenient blue mail. So I'm gonna go ahead and hit the Fluterino here, because there's one more thing that I want to do before we end things off. That is fly up to number 1 here. It's gonna put us right in front of the mountain cave, so technically you could save and quit and save maybe a second, but probably not, because you have to actually exit the old man's house. Wow, did these boulders really deal 2 hearts of damage when I came here before, or is that just like a static source of damage that doesn't change once you have the mail or something like that? Because that is painful, to take 2 whole hearts of damage the first time you come here. I don't even think I noticed that before. And these guys are new, actually, these Tektites right here. These are brand new enemies up here once you've actually traveled to the Dark World, and they're very frustrating. They're like overworld versions of the skeletons from before. Though they do like to drop nice chunks of change for you. They are one of the enemies that has high drop chances for rupees, which is nice. Not that we really need rupees for anything else at this point. I think there's only one more thing that I actually need rupees for, and that's not going to be coming for a very, very long time, so. But you know what, that's all okay. We're only here for one more thing at the very top of Death Mountain here. Not too terribly worried about all that other business right now. There's another one of these green things over here that we can read with the Book of Medora, and I guess I should show you the symbols now, although like, thinking about it immediately after, that doesn't make much sense because that doesn't mean anything to anyone. Let's go ahead and actually use the book. Hold up the Master Sword and you will get the magic of Ether. There's a much less cool effect than the Bombos effect, definitely, but I think it's pretty cool. Its magic controls the upper atmosphere and polar wind. Watch your magic meter. So that's going to round out our inventory with the very third medallion. It's looking actually quite complete now that we've got all these items. We've only got 2 more that we need to collect, and that also means 2 more dungeons that we need to go through as well. Oh, well, I guess I can't see them in the light world, considering they are dark world dungeons. But, those things are going to be waiting for us in the dark world. So, let me think. Actually, I think that I know exactly where it is that I would like to go. Gonna hit the flute and get us set up right in front of the very next dungeon. Make things convenient for myself, you know. Fly on down to number 6. I had showed this to you before so that we could grab some heart pieces over in this area. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, we can go ahead and save that for the next part. But let's go ahead and head back into the Misery Mire region. We've got some dealings to do in the Misery Swamp here. I believe if we head... Yep, just right here. You can see a mysterious symbol that is curiously matching an item that we just picked up, but I think I'm going to be saving all of that for the very next part of this series, so I hope you guys are looking forward to part number 12. I know that I certainly am. Getting really motivated to finish this game, actually, considering how close we are to the end. So I'm excited for that, and I hope you guys are too. My name is ReadyOpco. I hope you guys have enjoyed part number 11 of Let's Play The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past, and I will be seeing you guys in part number 12.